BelloGetty ImagesBye week blues and injuries only add to the challenges fantasy football owners face heading into NFL Week 10. The normal decisions, from the waiver wire to lineup choices, only get more complicated this week with big names like Aaron Rodgers hurt and potent defenses like the Philadelphia Eagles sitting on bye. This late in the week, depth should have some sort of reinforcement thanks to the wire. As for lineup decisions, let's round out a matchups ranking guide by comparing some of the top matchups based on 12-team Yahoo Standard Leagues. QB Tyrod Taylor vs. No vs. Ben Roethlisberger at IND Ben Roethlisberger. Matthew Stafford vs. CLE vs. Tom Brady at Den. Matthew Stafford. Jared Goff vs. How vs. Josh McCown at TB. Jared Goff. Jay Cutler at Car vs. Marcus Mariota vs. Sin. Marcus Mariota. Mitchell Trubisky vs. GB vs. Jacoby Brissett vs. Pitt. Mitchell Trubisky. Author's opinion. Start Ben Roethlisberger at IND Rick Osentowski. Associated Press. Is this the week? Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback Ben Roethlisberger puts it all together, though a recognizable name playing with potent weapons. Big Ben has yet to hit the 20-point mark this season. If those who banked on him are lucky, the drought ends in Week 10 on the road against the Indianapolis Colts. Road game or not, Big Ben should have a big day against what looks like the worst team in the league. Don't forget the Colts allow the 10th most points to opposing quarterbacks on average so far this year. For Big Ben, it's nowhere never time from a fantasy perspective. Sit Kirk Cousins vs. Minalane Thompson. Associated Press. It's hard to think Washington Redskins quarterback Kirk Cousins regresses any further than he has, yet here we are. Cousins strung together 4 outings in a row at 20.6 points or higher recently. Over his last 2 games, though, he's scored 11.52 and 8.28 points. The reason is a combination of tough matchups and opposing defenses adapting to what is truly a limited offense. These factors now chase Cousins into a game against the Minnesota Vikings, a team allowing the 4th fewest points to the position this year. At such a streamable position, it's best if owners bank on a bounce back from Cousins later in the season. Le'Veon Bell at IND vs. Jordan Howard vs. G. Le'Veon Bell. Todd Gurley vs. How vs. Alvin Kamara at Buff. Todd Gurley. Leonard Fournette vs. Lack vs. Jerick McKinnon at Was. Leonard Fournette. Ezekiel Elliott at ATL vs. Carlos Hyde vs. Nag. Ezekiel Elliott. C.J. Anderson vs. Nay vs. Melvin Gordon at Jax. Melvin Gordon. Author's opinion. Start Todd Gurley vs. How. Bill Castrun. Associated Press. At face value, Los Angeles Rams running back Todd Gurley looks like a tough play in Week 10 thanks to a game against the Houston Texans. After all, those Texans allow the 2nd fewest points to backs on average this year, but that's the facet value look. Owners who dive a bit deeper will see a back who has scored 21.4 or more points twice in a row and 5 times overall this year. They'll also see a Texans defense with inflated numbers thanks to playing backs like Frank Gore, Trey Madden and Duke Johnson in recent weeks. Gurley's usage and importance in the offense isn't going anywhere in the matchup isn't what it seems, so owners shouldn't hesitate here. Sit Devonta Freeman vs. Dull. John Bosmore. Associated Press. Be now, owners should know to shy away from Atlanta Falcons running back Devonta Freeman. If only it were so easy. It's not simple to look away from a guy most likely drafted with a premium pick. And Freeman started the season well enough, scoring north of 19 points in 2 out of his first 3 games. He's now hit single-digit production in 4 games and counting. Freeman isn't seeing great usage and now has to deal with the Dallas Cowboys, a defense allowing the 10th fewest points to backs on average. Rantonio Brown at IND vs. Dez Bryant at Atlantonio Brown. Julio Jones vs. Dahl vs. DeAndre Hopkins at LAR. Julio Jones. Brandon Cooks at Den vs. Will Fuller at LAR. Will Fuller at Y. Hilton vs. Pitt vs. Juju Smith-Schuster at INDTY. Hiltona. J. Green at 10 vs. Robert Woods vs. Hoa. J. Green. Author's opinion. Start Marvin Jones vs. CLE. Rick Osentowski. Associated Press. Detroit Lions wideout Marvin Jones is notorious for being a streaky fantasy player, with this season once again providing another perfect example. Jones started the year failing to hit double digits for 5 straight weeks. Now he's riding a wave of 3 double-digit outings with a high of 22.7 points, until he falls off. Owners should keep riding Jones and see where the streak takes them. It's tough to predict where the streak ends, yet a Week 10 game against the Cleveland Browns suggests Jones isn't done just yet. That said, the Browns rank right in the middle of the pack in terms of points allowed to wideouts. but it's a favorable outlook regardless when taking everything into account. Sit DeAndre Hopkins at Larry Eric Christian Smith Associated Press. Though some owners might not want to hear it, now is the time to shy away from Texans wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins. Hopkins benefited in a big way from the rapid development of rookie quarterback Deshaun Watson, turning a slow start to the year into 4 double-digit outings, including highs of 23.2 and 28.4 points. With Watson out for the year, though, the conversation changes. Hopkins is still the top option for the team, but the offense shifts dramatically back to an ineffective form without Watson. Also add in the fact the Rams only allow the 4th fewest points to wideouts on average. Hopkins isn't an outright sit every week, but this is a no-fly zone. Tevin Engram at SF vs. Jason Witten at Levin Engram. Cameron Braid vs. NYJ vs. Ed Dixon vs. Mia Cameron. Brad Julius Thomas at Carr vs. Jordan Reed vs. Min Jordan Rito, J. Howard vs. NYJ vs. Jack Doyle vs. Pito, J. Howard. Tyler Croft at 10 vs. Hunter Henry at Jax. Hunter Henry. Author's opinion. Start Kyle Rudolph. It was Jeff Haynes Associated Press. Until the usage for Vikings tight end Kyle Rudolph wanes, owners need to have him in lineups. Coming out of a bye, Rudolph has 7 or more targets in 4 consecutive games. It hasn't always translated to good production in fantasy lineups, which is where owners might have some pause when it comes time to make a decision on him. But don't pause as Rudolph heads into a game against the Redskins, owners of a defense allowing the 4th most points to the position. Combine usage and the matchup, and it wouldn't be too shocking to see Rudolph post the top scoring day at the position. Sit Jack Doyle vs. Pitt. Gary Landers Associated Press. It feels like seasons ago Colts tight end Jack Doyle put up 18.1 points against the Cincinnati Bengals. In reality, it came back in Week 9. But the outburst, which likely had a few owners targeting Doyle on the waiver wire, remains his only trip to double digits this year. So while Doyle seems like one of the top options on the Colts offense, he's a deceptive player as he heads into a game against a Steelers defense permitting the 4th fewest points to the position. Maybe Doyle isn't done with big outbursts this year, but it's hard to see one coming in Week 10. All scoring info, points against info, and ownership stats courtesy of Yahoo Standard Leagues.